Hey everyone, these are going to be really irreverent videos in the sense that like they're not going to be pretty, they're not going to be perfect, and they're not going to be like glossed over. If I put a filter on them, that's fine. But here's the deal. Thank you for being awake. Thank you for being on Earth. And you may take a step back and be like, who the hell is this woman and what the hell does she know? Well, I'll tell you what I know. I've been awake for, well, since 1968 and mostly terrified of human beings. I can see invisible energy, and Jesus and I have this like thing. And I've spent the past 5 years deciphering and arguing with God. Arguing with God's really fun because God always wins. But I've been arguing with God about whether or not I open my physical mouth about what I know and who I am and what I've known my whole life. And thank you all, because you're all awake now and you get it. And he actually, God, is laughing at me that I'm being quiet. And I was like humbled and I had to say, okay, fine, I'll stop being quiet. The challenge for me was always that I watched humanity my whole life, and there's so much ego of like, I'm right or I know. And that is really confusing for me as a soul. Jesus and I have this thing. We play this game all the time, all throughout the cosmos. We play a game, kind of, people call it hide and seek. I've heard some of the awakened people call it hide and seek. It's not hide and seek. It's question answer. And I ask a question and Jesus always has the answer. And we've been playing this for eternity. But I didn't, how do I say this that doesn't confuse people? I didn't understand that it had an effect on other souls. Fair enough. That's actually very honest. I didn't understand that my questions were affecting the rest of the cosmos. And then as I reawakened due to a miracle that I demanded he give to me, a long story, you can read my blog, that's a different thing. I didn't understand that there were other people feeling the shockwaves of what was going on. And then I had this overwhelming sense of guilt and, just guilt because people were hurting. I already knew the planet was hurting, which bothered me enough. So let's back up. We're now at a time where we have the internet, we have blogs, we have the radio, we have everything else that we can communicate. And the grace of the Lord finally came down to me and he was like, you need to open your mouth. And I said, well, everyone's kind of waking up and maybe I can just kind of let it ride and they'll all wake up and figure it out. He's like, no, that's not why I brought you here this time around. And I went, whew, okay, why'd you bring me here this time around? And he said, because I want you to prove me. That's a big request because I already knew him and I've already been playing with him throughout eternity. And he's like, no, I really want you to not just prove me to other people, but I want you to tell them how you and I play so that when they're playing with me, they are, the best word he used was validated in their play with the angels that they've been given with themselves. And that was really a beautiful way to explain it to me, because I've been doing this my whole current lifetime. I've just been doing this. And he said, but they're confused and they need to know how powerful they really are. And so once he put it in terms of like giving you guys every verbal validation, and I have tons of them, back to you to show you that you really are a child of our game and you should never be afraid of this planet and you should never be afraid of another human being, because another human being is just, another human being that makes you scared is just still lost in the sense that they're disconnected from the light. And so Jesus and I got into a nice argument, which was well received by me for a moment. And then he explained to me that there's powers on this planet that I don't even know about that are trying to keep you guys enslaved. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. You guys are kids of the light. No enslavement happens here. And so there's probably a lot of things that you know about that I don't know about. So I obviously agreed. I was like, no. Not my babies, not my children of the light. So here's going to be a series of videos that luckily I've lived in real time. I have been playing this game since forever and ever and ever and ever. And you can go back to like Shikes, Egypt and beyond, and I can explain every freaking hieroglyph that's ever been written. Jesus and I play this game of, I don't even want to give it a name, but we play this game on this planet Earth, and this Earth is the planet of love. And those of you that are awake, I trust, based on what he's told me, what I'm supposed to do here and what I'm doing here is going to give you more empowerment, more oomph, more laughter. That's the goal. The whole point of being able to see, hear, taste, smell, and touch is love and joy. So, my name's Christina. I am alive and well, and here we are on Earth, and there's a lot of stuff going on the planet that I'm not even aware of, but he keeps throwing at me to remind me of this. He came based on your guys' timeline 2,000 years ago, which is actually now. It's quantum physics, everything's in the now. But he now is at this point in his explosion of awakening in our game, waking up a lot of you. And so he asked me quite kindly, would you please prove in modern time what you already know? And I was like, whoa, what? I thought I was just the body. Oh, by the way, I never had a voice. I was just like this like reflection of him. I was just this like, let's put it this way, let's make it simple. If you can imagine the sun shining down on the earth, and then it hits the water, and the water reflects back to the sun itself, right? So the sun is the sun. I was just a water being. I was just a reflector. So he would ask questions, and he would play games with himself, and I would be like, yeah, sure, whatever. Who gives a shit? Yeah, there you are. Here you are. This is you. And then I woke up as a child in this physical format, in this timeline, to realizing that, oh crap, I have consciousness. I'm conscious too. And so he and I started, when I was in this timeline, very little, as far back as I can remember, I used to lie in my bed and like start arguments with him, like, well, wait a minute, if I'm just a vessel and I'm just a mirror and I'm just this and I'm just that, don't I have any value? Don't I have any say? Don't I have any meaning? Don't I have any purpose? Am I relevant? Am I irrelevant? And then, you know, human lifetime, you have all the other weird shit that happens. You go to school, you do this, you do that. So I started reading the Bible when I was 4, and I would go to Catholic school and Catholic church, and I had a lot of questions for these other human beings walking around the planet. And because I could only have my arguments with Jesus in the silence, so I started having arguments with humans in the out there. And Jesus always laughed because it's all his. But ultimately, now he has trained me to be able to speak both languages. The language of him reflecting himself through me and through you, and the language of all the books that have ever been written. I mean, I spent my entire life devouring words, and he trained me how the words are still his and how it all works. So now I am having a really good time. Like, oh, that's what we've been doing? That's why you put me in a body? So that I could argue with you, and then I can validate everyone else who kind of maybe sort of has a doubt about what we are and who we are. Because he's just playing with light. He's just playing with himself. He's just, well, basically he's kicking the ass of anybody who thinks he's not in charge of the planet. And secondly, he's beaten down anybody who thinks they know what words mean. And I can deconstruct all language. I've been able to do that since I was like 12. And yesterday I slept for 15 hours, which is outrageous. And I had this monster dream, and he woke me up at 6 o'clock this morning, and he's like, all right, here's what I want you to do. You're going to start making videos. You're going to wear no makeup. You're going to be the ultimate bare-faced, boring human soul that I made you to be, and show people that I've been waking up for the past 5 years, that you know everything. And yeah, I know everything. And so here's the deal. Jesus and I have one argument and one argument only. He's invisible, so I end up putting into words all the stuff he says. And my argument with him has always been this. I really don't like it when people get smart ass, like they know everything, and then other people want to challenge them. I mean, I'm happy to know everything because I demanded that I know everything, and that's cool. But my question to him was always, how do I know everything and yet give it back to other people that they know everything too without looking like I'm an egotistical bitch? And he goes, they already think they know. So give it back to them that you know, and then they will know that they know. So here we go. From the Book of Enoch, can you guys see that? The Book of Enoch to the Bible. Oh, there it is. Throw it at me. I've already deconstructed all this shit since I was like 4 years old. So I guess apparently what we're going to do now that you guys are awake and the Galactic Federation and everybody else has landed on the planet, we're going to play and show the people that doubt that there are Lords of Light and there are infinitely intelligent, invisible energies that actually run this planet, which makes it so fun. That's what we're doing. So I'm going to show up with you, and I have this weird board back here because Jesus and I make out squares of deconstructing books of the Bible, in case you wonder what the hell that is. That's what I do. Here's how it rolls. I have learned how to work miracles and this and that and the other, but I've never gone public. And I'm bored. So I said, dear Lord, could you give me something to do that's really, really fun and helps other people? And he's like, yeah, validate to my children that they know that they know that they know. And I was like, ooh, okay. As long as I don't come off as a smart ass, because I really don't like these like coaches things. There's so many coaches on the internet. You don't need a coach. You're a child of God. You are going to be in your space and time and go experience what you experience. And it's going to be glorious. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be miraculous. All the angels in the universe are right there with you, speaking your language. And he made me some promises. God love him. He promised that if I will go raw and real, he will make sure that you know that your raw and real is the most fun you will ever have, and that I can help you trust yourself. That's fair enough. I'm a mom. I'm a lot of things. I'm an ET. I mean, actually, I don't want to admit this, but I was invited to play this 3D game a long time ago. But I didn't realize that there were so many kids that were hanging out here too that had a moment of doubt. Well, forget that. No more moments of doubt. Let's play the 3D game. So I'm going to make a series of videos about all this stuff, and there's a ton of teachers out there for whatever you need when you need it. Some people are working on different things. But my personal experience is, I'm going to be completely transparent with you. My name is the Nothing. So embarrassing to admit, but for God's sakes, I mean literally, I will say it. I'm the Nothing, and I woke up one moment in time and realized I'm alone. And so I blew. And I don't have a better word. I like freaked. I blew. And so I remember to this day, I remember blowing a spark. And there was like the smallest possible spark. and it was just there, and it was alone, and so it extended and it caught itself like a wall, like, stop, you're not alone, you have yourself. And that spark, like the sun, like a sunbeam, extended itself and reflected itself. And in that moment I went and I can still remember as a child in this lifetime, I was like, so let's pretend that we're different. Let's pretend that there's a me and a you, the me that woke up and the me that bounced back. And we've been playing this game of sparks since whenever. And if you've ever seen a photograph of the sun, it goes in infinite directions, and that's the Christ light, and it goes in infinite directions, and then it always falls back on itself. And I didn't know when I was little that I was blowing off all these games, lights. And he, my friend, my invisible friend, was like, okay, you've kind of like created a shitload of people, of souls, that are now reflecting back to you, and they're lost. And I was like, seriously? Really? Oh crap, what do we do? And he's like, well, we wake them up and we give them free will so they can do their own explosive sparks of light, but let's make it love-based. And I was like, it's always been love-based. How do we... And he's like, well, they have free will. They're lost. They're scared. And I was like, okay, what do I do? And here we are. So to those of you that are awake, this makes a little bit of sense. To those of you that aren't awake, you should leave now. Because it's not going to make any sense until you wake up. But what it ends up being is this. Being the nothing is probably the coolest, most peaceful gift I've ever been reminded of. But understanding that in having created the Christ, the firstborn of the dead, because when you're alone, you're alone. Jesus is the firstborn of the dead. Out of nothing comes something. And you give him everything. He explained to me that he also went on to create like a shitload of mirrors, which is why they call it the beast in the book of Revelation. Who cares? But now you guys are all awake, and we're going to play this game, and we're going to turn Earth back into the loving home it was intended to be. It was just meant to be the ultimate place where you play with love, and where you are safe, and where you sleep peacefully, and you touch light. I mean, you have a boundary. You have a, I'm here, I exist, I'm okay. I'm here, I exist, I'm okay. I'm here, I exist, okay. It doesn't matter. For people who aren't light workers, who aren't awake, that makes absolutely no sense. For those of you that are light beings and are awake, or ETs or whatever, you can hear the birds singing out there, right? It makes perfect sense. For me as a linear time being, I'm not going to tell you what it means to me, but I'm going to tell you this. In 1990, I was given the wheel of a truck. I was wide awake, and I am driving like hellfire across the desert, trying to get the hell out of this body, because it was terrifying to be in a body. And my Jesus was right there. I mean, literally, physically right there. Sword in the heart. In the car with me, in the truck. It's the middle of the night. And I am driving like a bat out of hell. And it was so funny. And if you've never experienced this stuff, then shit, I hope you do. I am driving like hellfire across the desert, and outside the windows, outside the windshield and the windows, there are fires blowing up. The more I scream, make it stop, am I seriously on the ground? Holy shit. It was like, boom, cornfield on fire. Boom, city exploding. Boom, cow in the road, blows up in blood. And I was like overwhelmed by the fact that every time you have a fearful thought, something physically shows up outside of your reality and explodes. And my partner over here, my Messiah, he was just dead asleep, bleeding it out. And I'm like, dude! And he wouldn't wake up. And then when the sun came up the next day, that night, I always remember that night, we were in, of all places, Purgatory, Colorado. And I had to go to the bathroom so bad. And we went to this gas station, and I woke him up. I'm like, did you not even see that? He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he gave me the biggest hug. And I looked at him, and I'm like, you really laid your life, went to sleep, laid your life down so that I could comprehend who we are. So I've been doing this for a super long time. And I only saw two choices at this point in 2017 with all you guys awake. Open my mouth or go back to sleep. And shit, let's just open our mouths. And I like being a smartass, which makes it challenging for me having a mouth. But we're going to spend some time doing some videos deconstructing the Bible, deconstructing language, which is really, really, really important for you guys. You guys have got to deconstruct your language. You guys have got language all off. For the love of God, for the love of me, for the love of the nothing. I'm just the nothing that, created shit to play. For the love of the nothing, you've got to deconstruct your language because it's confusing you. And beyond that, in your own little place on the earth, have fun. That's your job. You gotta have fun and just be light and laugh your ass off because you get lots of clues. So let's see, is there anything else? Oh, people have asked me, how do you know what you know? I know who I am. Daryl Lanka, Bashar, Abraham Hicks are here to be reflections, not of me. Ego's so weird. Not just of me as the nothing, and I love being the nothing. It's really fun. But for you, so that you have tools and ways to validate what wakes you up at 4 o'clock in the morning and freaks you out in the grocery store and whatever. But there's a shitload of teachers that signed up to prove to you that this is for real and this is awesome and this is fantastic. But the ultimate bottom line is, hi, welcome to the universe. The universe is this. If you're going to be on Earth, Earth is a place where you get to have a relationship with love. If you don't honor it, we kick your ass out. Period. The end. Because Jesus is the Lord of hosts. And a host is something that carries something. So he's actually even carrying me, the nothing. So that you can have something to do and love. And that's it. That's all there is. So if you're a singer or a musician or an artist or I don't care what you are, but this planet is made for love. Don't fuck with it, because it will boot you out to the nothing again, and it's not the most fun place to be. So stay and play. But he's the Lord of hosts, so what's really fun for me is yay, I'm not in charge. But he is, and you can talk to him and his army of ETs. Oh, they're called ETs because extraterrestrial means this is terrestrial, but 2 inches away from here, there's still a consciousness that's extra, in case you want to shift. That was a really fun video for me, probably not for you. People have asked Abraham Hicks what happens when Esther dies. Learn.